Hi, this is Jonathan J, and welcome to one of my behind the scenes videos where you'll see the recording of one of my business buying strategies podcasts. Now on this video, you'll see my interview with Chris Stone. Chris Stone is one of my private clients. He owns an audiology clinic in Scotland. And during the course of this interview, you will discover how Chris has grown his clinic in leaps and bounds by making acquisitions. And as he says several times during the interview, it was far faster to grow by acquisition than it ever would have been growing one customer at a time. It's a really great interview with someone who's just made some incredible progress, and I hope you enjoy it. Chris, how are you?
I'm good, man. How's things? Keep busy?
Yeah, really good. Really good. So how's life with you? What's been happening?
It's hectic. No doubt about it. Yeah, lockdowns, shutdowns, reopenings, shutdowns again. Yeah, it's been bizarre. Not good times.
Yeah. So how's the last year affected your business?
We're significantly better off than what we were had COVID not happened.
Really?
Significantly, which is strange. It's kind of in many ways it's a little bit kind of bittersweet because we've how do I best describe it? We had to get rid of some sort of good staff actually, but they turned out to be our most costly staff. So we managed to clear the decks, make some difficult business decisions. We shut down for quite a period, so there was a pause from March through till middle of May. Revenue wise, we lost about 500,000, and it was pretty dicey. We didn't know exactly where things were going to go. But then the beauty of it was come sort of tail end May and into June, there was pent-up demand. So we picked it all back up again and made it all back within 2 or 3 months. And then lower overhead and a couple of acquisitions. And it's going really, really well. But at the same time, I kind of feel a bit bad about it because I've got a lot of friends who are not doing so well. You know, some guys are opticians and dentists and the like, and they're just kind of hurting. So it's a wee bit bittersweet in that respect. And it's a bit hard to celebrate it.
Yeah, no, I completely understand. And so effectively your business reset itself. So you went back to your cost base and you probably questioned every cost and said, do we really need this? You had a restructuring of the staffing, and you've maybe ended up with a better organized, stronger business as a result.
Much leaner, much leaner, which has been hugely positive. I mean, we were targeting for last year, we were probably looking at net profit of around about 6-7%. We're going to try and grow that to 10 on a 2 million turnover. Well, we're now at 21% on that, and it's been really bizarre. It's been it's been a horrible experience, harrowing actually. Difficult decisions had to get made, but it's worked out positive. And with some of the stuff that we've been doing as well, taking some of the cues from you guys, stepping up a profile, we're getting a lot of traction in terms of people coming to us with offering professional services, linking us up with other businesses, opportunities for growth, buy some other ones out. So it's came good, but it's been a tough year.
Very good. So let's talk about acquisitions then, Chris, because I remember when we very first spoke, and actually I do remember that conversation quite clearly. You said that this was the plan, this is what you wanted to do, but you needed a process and a structure. It sounds to me like you've taken that process and run with it.
That's right. So it started off actually, the first acquisition was around about when I joined your course last year. So was it last year? Yeah, beginning of last year.
Beginning of 2020, yes.
Yeah, and we'd been talking about buying out a couple of our competitors. Didn't really know how to go about it. I felt that organic growth was just going to be far too slow for us. So I thought, right, we'll do this. Maybe we'll borrow, we'll leverage, and sort of take it from there. But the problem that we have in our industry, we've got some good routes for getting interest-free financing for buying businesses out, but it's usually through a supplier. So there's some pretty hefty shackles get put on you in terms of share of wallet and what you can and cannot do and who you can then acquire next and so forth. So we thought we didn't want to go down the route too heavily of being in some other company's pocket. And that was when I took this sort of initiative to look for buying a business with no money down sort of deals. And I picked you up on your podcast and went through a lot of the stuff. I realized that you guys had the Mastermind going. So I had to be part of that. I just felt that I didn't have a big enough network who were involved in those kind of things. So that's what kind of brought me to you. And from there, we started the process of networking and seeing who was out there that was a likely target. Obviously, we spent quite a bit of time on set our sort of big goals. And ideally, we didn't want to buy anyone in our local vicinity because we're kind of large enough across the central belt of Scotland. Initially wanted to grow out with central Scotland and down into England and onwards. And I realised I had a big gap in my management team. The reason I was saying that was I was juggling too many balls. So I had to find people who could come in and work operationally, take control of the ops director. I needed an ops director. I also needed a sales manager. I need a marketing director as well, because I was doing everything in that respect. So I managed to get an ops director. That freed me up quite a lot. Then I found an acquisition down in Cheshire, Yorkshire, Merseyside.
Oh, right. So when you say move geographically, you mean geographically outside of Scotland?
Yeah, so the plan was to start acquiring businesses moving downwards, because there's no point going, once you're in central Scotland, there's not a lot of population north of us.
Sure.
So the idea would be to kind of start moving down. We'd initially looked at a sort of franchise model where we would divide up the UK into maybe sort of groups of 5 million and then put a franchisee in each of them. But just finding the time, getting around to building that franchise model was going to be challenging. So I thought we'll just make a couple of acquisitions initially and then we'll
Yes.
take it from there.
Yes.
Which is exactly what we did. So we started with the process. Actually, I took it fairly step by step for some of the suggestions that you'd made. But we wanted to make sure that we had a big sort of goal and could get the whole management team involved. So the target for us is to get an 8-figure sort of sellout at the end of the day, whatever that may be. So 10 million, 15 million plus. There's myself and my brother. We're just about 50-50 owners in the business. And we've brought a third person in as an equity stakeholder, but it's a very, very small amount. And that was a managing director of the company that we acquired first, because he's very, very strong in being a director in sales, a sales director in a sort of audiology organization. So we bought a business from him, but then we've brought him onto our board and we've given him a small share, about 6%. And if the company hits a turnover target north of 3 million, which will happen this year, then that'll sort of grow a little bit as well for him. But that gets him in and gets his buy-in as well. And he's really useful. Very, 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 very useful.
So tell me how you found the first acquisition.
So first one was I switched up my LinkedIn profile and put investor on it. And I got a couple of people say, oh, I didn't realize you were involved in investing in businesses. Let's have a chat. And one or two were from our sector, obviously, who knew of a couple of businesses that weren't doing quite so well. And I hadn't even thought about this company initially to acquire it. But a door was opened and we made contact. Turns out it was somebody that we knew we'd met several times over at kind of trade events and sort of away days and product launches and stuff over the years. And he had grown a chain of clinics, about 9 clinics, a couple of staff, made a couple of sort of poor decisions in terms of where he was opening up and tried to open up in London too soon, which was a bit too far away from kind of the north of England. Got his fingers burned and was looking to sort of didn't want to get rid of the business, but couldn't really sort of hold on to it too much longer because he was in quite a bit of debt to the bank and whatnot, and it wasn't really profitable. So we had a few discussions, and basically he was 120k in debt to the bank. We took a look at his P&L, 460k turnover, not making a profit on that. But once you stripped out some of the bad mistakes he'd made over the year, opening up in London, and another director on in the business that was taking about 50-60k out. Once you'd removed all of that, actually, there was about 120k net profit there. So what
you've done there is you've normalized the profit. So you've taken out all those exceptional and one-off items.
Yeah,
and,
that's right.
And quite often, all it takes is 2 or 3 poor decisions in a row
to really damage a business.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
you've seen beyond that, and you see what it could be like if those mistakes hadn't have happened.
100%. So if we managed to strip those if those bad mistakes weren't there in the first instance, then the company would have been all right, quite solvent. But it wasn't looking that way. And to him, it was an opportunity to be free of that, because he also has another business that he was kind of dabbling between the pair of them. So we went in, we took on the debt, which we cleared. We did actually took your advice on it as well from one of the sessions that we'd been on, which was we went through funding circle,
Okay.
which was quick. We got 120k loan, able to purchase the assets of the business rather than buy the shares of it, which was quite a good move. He can then wrap that business up, and we've just merged all of his assets into our bigger business, which is what we wanted to do. Then what we're going to do was we're going to just kind of pivot that loan, because that one carries PGs. So we wanted to get free of those PGs, and obviously the lockdown sort of happened, and Sybil's loans appeared, which were sent backed by the government. So we took one of them for a couple $100,000. We're going to pay off the funding loan, the funding circle loan, and that gives us a 6 months reprieve as well. So there's no sort of initial payments for 6 months, and then it's sort of a very low rate of interest over the next sort of 36 months. So
I think actually that's even been extended now.
Yeah, that's right.
It keeps evolving. So you've basically taken a very cheap money that's available to pay off the more expensive money with the PGs.
That's right. So we kind of freed ourselves of that possible burden. In addition to that, just sort of how this was quite a good deal for us was businesses in our sector go for sale for about a 1-to-1 turnover valuation. So if you're doing $1 million, you're worth $1 million. 2 million, you're worth 2 million. But once you get north of about 4 or 5 million, you start to become worth an awful lot more. And it's usually a vertical integration. It's usually a manufacturer, a supplier will buy you out, a trade buyer, sort of down the line. So we're aiming to get to about a 10 million turnover business, which will then put a 1.2, 1.4, multiplier on the business.
Right.
Now, so we were able to buy his company out for 120k plus a small amount of equity, a small amount into the bigger business. But we're going to add on about 460k in turnover from that one acquisition. So quite a good one for us, almost $500,000.
Absolutely. Yeah. And
yeah.
how long would it have taken you to add $500,000 of revenue organically to your existing business?
If I was to sort of open up a store, feed money in, try and break even on that store, and then turn it into something, maybe you'd probably be looking at about a 3-year spell. If you're going to just do it from a greenfield site, probably about a good 2.5-3 years would probably be the case.
Really?
But to buy this out, to merge it in, took us, give or take the lockdown, because that put a little bit of a break on some things for a while.
Sure.
But we're talking it was a sort of 4 or 5 months sort of deal time frame.
There's it's an easy choice, right?
Yes, the easiest choice, I think, for me. It was interesting. I was kind of spurred on by there was a period there I was thinking maybe doing acquisitions right now is probably a bad idea. I think maybe we should just sit down, consolidate, just ride this out. But then I remember sitting, I've got a hot tub out back, and I put my headphones on and sat and I was watching the podcast. Not the podcast, tell a lie. I was doing the Zoom call, the YouTube Zoom calls. So I was catching up with some of the stuff that you guys had been talking about. I think it was back, was it January? No, not January.
One of the group Zooms that we do.
Yeah. So I think it was like the sort of, must have been around about May, maybe June. And I was just listening to some of the stories of some of the guys and the ladies that were on that. And some of them were just lining up deal after deal after deal. And I thought, I need to get my thumb out. This now's a good opportunity. Now's the right time to do it. And it turned out to be good.
I've got to say that when you are part of a peer group, you can benchmark your activity against others. And there's nothing worse than seeing someone flying ahead and you think, you know what, I've been twiddling my thumbs a little bit here. that's the impetus that I need to get moving myself. So it's
That
a
was
great way of motivating yourself, isn't it?
you know, that was exactly it, and that pretty much alone would have been worth its weight in gold to me. You know, just knowing that there's other people out there doing it made me feel I was being a bit lax, I was being a bit lazy, and that's
Yeah.
not really our approach. So yeah, no, that was good actually. It really has been quite positive. It's been quite a motivating experience being part of that.
Yeah, yeah. So that was the first acquisition. How
Yep.
long ago was that? When did that complete?
So we let me think. What's this now? February. We completed in start of December.
Okay. So
So
how's the integration going?
there was a lull just there. The big thing that was a big bugger was I was phoning round actually all the staff of the company, the staff that we'd acquired, to introduce myself. And just as I was making those phone calls, the UK went back into lockdown again. So it was a
Right.
hi, pleased to meet you. It's going to be brilliant. You know, the grass is greener over on our side of the fence, and you're going on to furlough now. So we'll sort of keep in touch. So I'm just waiting at the minute to pull them back out of furlough, because some of the clinics that they operate from is a sort of clinic share or a room share where they go in and use an optician's site.
Yes.
And the opticians are on, at the minute, in some of the areas, the opticians are on a sort of locked door policy. It's like one patient in, one patient out at a time. So we've just got to kind of bide our time and just know that and be comfortable with the fact that in a few months, once the lockdown's over, there's going to be a lot more demand for our services. Because it was really pent up last time, and they came flying back.
And this is your opportunity to integrate that acquisition into the group, and to and integrate all the financials, the financial elements, the operations, the CRM, whatever CRM system you use, all of those things. So there's a little bit of a lull. Sometimes actually you can do that back office stuff that you might not have got around to for a while otherwise.
Sure. It is actually quite nice because it does give us time, like you say, to kind of get our ducks in a row. Moving them on, we use Salesforce, which is quite unusual for our industry. We tailored it quite a lot for our sort of needs. So we're bringing them onto Salesforce. We're creating booking portals and all the appropriate integrations and everything, and then gearing up the marketing and getting ready to relaunch, basically, because that's effectively what it is. But it gives us time to do that. It's not like anything's in a mad rush. Everyone's just accepting of the fact this is going to be a couple more months of sitting back and doing very little, I guess.
So what happened after? So the first acquisition, you got a taste for it all. Was it exciting? Was it fun?
It was actually, and it just doing it the first time I was quite nervous about it all, because we're talking in a language with a lot of people that we didn't really speak in, certainly with the lawyers and everything, when we're producing the sale and purchase agreements and then approaching the seller and then negotiating the deal. You know, just getting that done was it was a really good feeling, but it made us so much more ready for the next one, and obviously the next one after that. Very quickly after we had hit heads of terms with that first acquisition, we got approached by another 2 or 3 businesses to sell to buy them out, because the word was out that we were acquisitive, and in our market you get an awful lot of owner operators. You get a lot of people who are ready for retiring. They're not really up for dealing with reopening after a lockdown and having to deal with COVID and all of that. So we got approached by 3 other companies that are interested in selling to us, one of which we took forwards. 2 of them we just immediately discounted because we didn't think that there was really a good synergy with us and them whatsoever. They didn't really have much to sell, if I'm honest with you. They were hopeful they were going to get something, but there really wasn't much of a business there without them being there.
Yeah.
So we decided that they weren't good for us, and we took one forwards. But it came quite clear as we started going through the heads and then moving into reviewing the accounts and trying to come up with a deal structure, we couldn't trust the guy as far as we could throw him. Right. So yes, he was quite wily. It would have been wrong for us to buy him out the way that he wanted to be paid for the company. Let's put it that way. It was practically brown bags left at his doorstep, and don't tell the
Right.
tax man
Okay.
and all that
Time,
sort of stuff.
time to move on then.
Yeah, I thought, you know what, if we buy him out, I think within about 2 weeks he would have reopened again on our doorstep. He's that kind of sort. So that was a shame, because actually he had some strategic positions in and around where we are, which we would like to have been into in a couple of private hospitals and the like, and it would have been great to get into those. So we'll see what
Well, I mean,
happens.
you can always go back and say, are you still interested in doing a deal? And then if he is, this is the way it needs to be done. I mean, you can exclude by contract the possibility of him opening up within a certain radius. I mean, I always do 30 miles, which is quite extreme actually for my type of businesses. But we would say 30 miles for 3 years. Now, if he's in contravention of that, then you have a very good reason to withhold any sort of deferred element. So he might well try and compete with you, but you might get a very inexpensive business as a result. So it could still be worth considering. I mean, it might be something you can resurrect.
Yeah, possibly, very possibly. I think I'm quite keen on just parking my tank on his lawn at the moment and just waiting and seeing, because I think, you know, you've said it many a time, and I hear it a lot, is, you know, when somebody's decided that they're going to sell up, they take the foot off the gas in a big way, and I think that's pretty much where he's at. You know, he was talking of retiring. He's not got it in him anymore. I just felt that I couldn't do a deal with him as it stood. So actually, it was a good one to get away from, because it's freed us up, and now we're ready for the next one. So we're on to sort of acquisition number 2, and this is quite a big one. This is another 500,000, maybe 600, 700k business that we're going to acquire. So we're just getting to
so I was going to say, what stage are you at with that? So you've put together a deal. Does it involve any of your own cash in this one, or maybe with a larger deal it requires some? I mean, how does it work?
So with the extension of the Sybil's loan scheme, we've gone again back to a person who helped us with the funding circle application. And he says, actually, there's still some money out there, and if you guys are interested in it now, might not be a bad idea to approach one of the finance houses and see what you can get. So we did, and very quickly they came back to us and said, yeah, no trouble, your balance sheet's looking strong, we can see that your company's in a good shape, we like who you are, what you're doing, your sector's quite good. There's another 200 grand for you, and you've got it over a 5-year period with a 6 months no payment window, which is really quite nice.
Very good.
So I think that's what we'll do initially. We'll use a bit of that. I used your line actually as well, and funnily enough, it nearly backfired on me, because I said to him, you know, what do you want the money for? Are you looking to buy a Ferrari? And he sort of said, well, I'm now that my mate's just gone and bought one, and showed me a photograph.
Yeah, to be fair,
he got it delivered.
It's not often you're going to hear that, but yeah,
it wasn't. It really wasn't. I couldn't believe it, and I thought, oh no, you know, that's just, it's too coincidental. His friend had just bought the new Ferrari Roma and got it delivered on Sunday. Sent me a picture of it, and it's something else. And he said, no, I wasn't really thinking about buying a Ferrari, but now I maybe am. And I thought, okay, fair enough. So I did query it. I said, you know, what is your thoughts about, you know, your valuation for your company? How do we structure a deal? His idea was that this would be his pension pot. So he was looking for somewhere around about 750,000 on a company that's turning about 600, and it's extremely profitable. He runs it on a shoestring budget, but he's very high end. So his margins are just insane, and we really want him free of that company to come and work in the bigger business as well with us. So we would keep him on for sure. So the deal will be probably a down payment using the Sybil's loan, and then looking into his business, we've probably got cost savings in there once we take a look at our. Well, we're a much bigger purchaser of devices. So we've got better buying power. We've probably got about a 50, 60k a year saving in there. Plus, if we take him out as the consultant who's doing the selling, and he's taking a 6-figure salary out at the moment, and we put in one of our guys on 40 or 50k, there's another, 50, 60k that we found. So hopefully there's a deal that can be done whereby he comes and joins us, he gets a down payment that comes out of the Sybil's loan, and then we pay him out 100K a year over the next, 4 or 5 years. But that's going to come from within the business. So really, there's
exactly. So again, none of your own personal money invested.
Yeah, love it.
And
Yeah.
you acquire another, what did you say, 500-600,000?
So that should bring in another 600K in turnover very quickly, and we'll probably grow that because he only works part-time in that business just now. If we put in a full-timer and maybe another one, then we'll probably get that to about 7, maybe 800K turnover.
Wow.
Which
so with that in the first one, that's way over £1 million of additional revenue, or like 1.2 million.
Yeah.
And again, if you had to do that organically, that would take years, wouldn't it?
Well, it did. For us to break the million barrier with the first business that we ever bought, which was the sort of the nucleus for all of this. We bought a company over 8 years ago. It was an asset purchase. It was a company tried to open up in Glasgow city centre, didn't do well. So they operated for about 3 years. Very, very small database of customers, a 7-year left over on their lease. They just shut the doors one day and didn't open back up again. We got a call saying, do you want the fixtures, the fittings, the database? Give us 25, 30K for it and you can have it. So we took on the lease and we borrowed from a supplier £30,000, paying that out over a sort of a unit purchase agreement. So we buy hearing devices, we get 50 quid for every unit that we buy to pay off that loan. So we took that business on 8 years ago. We got to $1 million turnover. It took us 4.5 years to get to $1 million turnover, actually.
So you've added another $1 million in less than 12 months. So it's like 20-25% of the time by acquisition compared to organic.
That's right. Yeah. And I think if things keep going the way that they're going, we've probably got a strong enough management team now, structure, offering that we can start growing organically very quickly, which is fine. But I think there will be another maybe 2 or 3 acquisitions over the course of the next year or two, I think, just to really get some traction in certain regions that we want to be in. So some good areas that we really want to get involved in. And then we're going to pivot. The next step is to pivot and move into other kind of medical or healthcare orientated sectors that are doing quite well. I'm really keen on. I've got my own sort of the aesthetics side of things because that ties in quite well with some of the products that we do, which are all super invisible and all about
health, and I can see the sense of it. So you're creating a healthcare group.
Yep, that's the plan.
Yeah. So a lot of people who listen to the podcast, sitting on the fence, is spending some time and money learning about buying a business worthwhile. You've done it. What would you say?
I would never start a business again from scratch, ever. I just think that's fraught with danger. People don't realize just how risky it is to start a business from scratch. I've got a few friends who are exploring the possibility of going out on their own and doing their own thing. And I've tried to encourage them to just go and buy something that's already, working, with 5 years of history behind it, management team in place. Life's a lot easier if you've already got good structure there and a database to work, premises to operate from, marketing that already does a job. You just go in and you then, improve it piece by piece. I'd never, ever consider starting from scratch. That's too long. Life's too short. Far too short.
It is. And what would you say the biggest benefit was from our time together and continuing time together, I hasten to add?
Yeah, it's sort of elongated out, hasn't it? It was supposed to be a year of catching up with you guys. I don't know, Jonathan, how long does this go on for now that I'm part of the gang?
Well, you know something, I've never turned anyone away. So you know how to get hold of me if you need me.
Yeah, sure. So what would I say? The best part, it really surprised me, the mix of folk that were on the course, because they were from all walks of life, all different sectors. And I genuinely felt that I had a sort of bias in my head that, people who buy businesses are all super sharp and are all super motivated and are all, you know, cleverer or wiser or better connected than what I was. And then going on the course and having a chat, there was folk there, and I don't mean this in any sort of derogatory way at all, but real, you wouldn't have thought that they would be doing some of the things that we're actually doing, and they were punching really, really well above what I was imagining was even possible. And I just thought, if they can do it, I can do it.
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah, absolutely.
yeah, and I'm quite competitive, so I kind of wanted to prove myself. I like being, you know, the one that shows up and actually has good news and says, you know, I'm doing a little bit better.
Exactly.
That
And
kind of
that little
motivates
bit
me.
of peer pressure of you don't
Yeah,
want to be the one who hasn't done their homework.
yeah, and I mean, the thought of going back, you know, after being on the course and then going back to my board and saying, ah, yeah, you know, I spent all this money and never got anything out of it. It just, that doesn't sit well with me. I'm a little bit too stingy in that respect. You know, I want to make sure I get my money's worth. So I felt that I definitely did. And the folk that were on the course, they added quite a bit to the experience. Obviously, it wasn't just, not to take anything away from you, Jonathan, but it wasn't just
No, no. Well, it isn't just me. That's the thing. Is being in an environment where people are supportive of what you're doing and aren't trying to tell you it's a crazy idea. And usually, unfortunately, friends and family are the people who talk you out of the things that are best for you.
Yeah, there's sort of 99% of the people who you tell these big plans to, they sort of smile and nod and tell you good luck, but they don't believe for a second that you're ever going to do it.
Sure.
And then there's the 1% that really do believe in you and they push you on. And it was within this sort of mastermind group that, you know, everyone was sat there going, yeah, this is the goal. And some people were actually quite far along the track. In fact, I never forget the Australian fella who stood up and, you know, I think was he doing care homes, the big Australian guy, and he was buying out care home after care home after care home. He was on like 9 million a turnover and
Oh
continuing
yes,
going
yes.
and
I know
going
who
and
you mean.
going.
Yeah, yeah,
And I
yeah.
just thought, yeah, good on him. You know, good for you. I want to be that guy next time. I'm going to come down. I'm going to be telling some good stories. You know.
In fact, you know something. I know who you're talking about, and I've asked him to be a guest on the podcast. But he's doing so well. He doesn't want any of his competitors knowing how well he's doing with these acquisitions. That's why he hasn't been a guest on the podcast.
Yeah.
But Chris Stone, you have been a great guest, and it has been very enjoyable talking to you and hearing your journey. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot more to come. So maybe this time next year we can get you back as a guest again and hear what's been happening since.
Cool.
But
No,
in the
pleasure.
meantime, good luck with everything, and I will catch up with you soon.